they told me the big guys are, like, you want to pay chiefs and that full rights.
I know, I can call him big guy.
They're helping pay
I can say it's large guy.
He's got no.
Okay.
Give him a little condo. That's not since the
So anyway.
That's what they're.
No,
I'm.
Well, I wanted to make sure that we put this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sizzle, but is there something you're supposed to be?
Yeah. But Matt.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, welcome everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody ready to rock and roll? Have a great day today. It's awesome to be here. Last night I was at a little league baseball game for my son, and one of the kids stole home. And when he started coming back, and this is a brand new season, so I'm like, all right, let's make sure the kids are learning to talk to each other. Let's make sure they're congratulating each other. So this kid, this is a bunch of 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds. He comes walking back to the dugout, and I say, guys, what do we say to Oliver? And they all go, thank you. That's what little kids' answer is when you say, what do we say, right? Please and thank you. So the next time someone did something good, I said, hey, tell them thank you too. So it's all good. Hey, we are stoked, excited, grateful to have Justin Udy here speaking with us today. And he is going to talk about differentiating your real estate business. Is that right?
Sure.
Or just how to grow the most sexy man beard online, or one of those things. You'll be surprised which one he actually talks about. So, but anyway, guys, I've spent a lot of time around Justin. I've got to tell you a couple things that I think are really interesting and important. Every single year, he's constantly working on bettering himself and his craft, and it proves by his results. It's proven by his results that he takes this business very seriously. Second thing, I love the fact that he's willing to share. And that's something that I think is a great culture and consistent within our Everest environment, but the willingness to stand up and say, here's what's working for me. He loves to give back that way. And third and final thing that I've observed from one of the first times I ever met him was when he stood up to be a part of a panel at a summit. Here's 4 or 5 top producing agents, everyone. One of them stood up with a notebook and a pencil in their hand so that they could take notes to learn what the other people are saying. Who do you think it was? The man with the beard. So, hey, we're excited to have you here today, man. Turn the floor over to you.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for coming today. A couple things I want to go over is I have a lot of information. When I was kind of going through asking, what's maybe the most what everybody's looking for in the information and data, I wrote down a lot of things. So I am going to keep some notes in front of me because I don't want to skip it. But at the same time, I want you to be able to interrupt me. I've been in the business for 15 years, so sometimes I go through a process that I've been 1,000 times, and so I skip over a lot of little details. So feel free to write down the note, raise your hand, interrupt, be like, well, what do you mean? Like, how did you do this or this or this? Because it's just easy for me to skip over it because it's become kind of common for me, okay? Just so you know who I haven't ever worked with or I don't know you, again, my name is Justin Udy. I've been a real estate agent for basically 15 years next month. I graduated from the University of Utah. I got a degree in marketing. Literally the week that I graduated from school, I went and worked with a friend doing loans. When I was doing loans, I remember I was making $10,000 a year as a student, and one month I made $10,000 a month doing loans. And so I had more money than I knew what to do with, so I started buying and investing in properties. Now, I had an agent that I was working with. With that agent, what happened was I ended up going to him, and after I referred him about his 15th client, he's like, I think you should probably go get your real estate license. And so I ended up getting my real estate license, and that year, Dave Stocco and I were rookies of the year. And it was really cool. So Dave and I kind of had started at the same time. And anyway, it was a really good, and I think there were some things that I found a lot of success in that I'm hoping I can share with you, but there's also a lot of just problems and stupid things I've done that hopefully you just won't deal with. One of the first things I do want to name up front before I forget with anything is, in any time you hear from somebody that's doing a lot of business, I want you to always ask, they need to make sure they're telling you the margins. One of the biggest myths in this business is they're spending so much money, but they're not netting anything, okay? And so you need to make sure in your businesses that you're leading with profit. And what that means is that you don't need to do all of these things that we're going to talk about. It's not about spending money. It's about being consistent. And so when you're leading with revenue, what that means is that I'm trying to think of, I had closed 47 transactions on my own and not spent $1 on marketing, okay? Now I did spend money on with my clients and Sphere, doing newsletters and different things, but that, to me, that was more reaching out as opposed to reaching out to the open market and kind of being a fisherman and trying to bring people in, okay? So just know you can have a big business and a big database, and you don't have to spend a bunch of money, but always lead with revenue, meaning you have additional money and you're reinvesting in your business. You have additional money and you're reinvesting in your business, right? We have a couple of things that I'm looking at that I've been looking at for over a year. And right now, this month, I'm finally pulling the trigger on it, but I'm testing it for 6 months, and if it doesn't have a high rate of return, for me, it has to be like a 3 to a 5 times rate of return, or I just have to kill it. Now, I have monitoring and ways that I monitor those things to the penny, because again, a business runs like a business, right? You have to have a scoreboard. If any of you ever play sports, how do we end up measuring ourselves for the game that we like? We watch the scoreboard, right? And we know where to improve and what to change. So hopefully with this, I want you to be able to go through and just understand where your business is. But at the end, I want to leave 10 minutes where you're going to actually take something from this in order to implement in your business. I think it's the biggest problem we have in our industry. We hear a lot of things, but no action is taken. So I want to take the last 5 minutes, so you're going to write down what you're going to implement, and then whoever the person is that is, whether it be your coach, your broker, whoever, you're going to follow up with them and send them a text and like, these are the things I'm going to implement in the next 30 days, right? Great book, and it's called Atomic Habits. There's a story in there. There's a number of books here that I've brought that I think are really stepping stones for me that really kind of changed my mindset on certain details. So I'm going to make sure I go through each one of them. But in the book Atomic Habits, it talks about a gentleman named Brelford, and he was a gentleman that worked with the British Cycling. Now, British Cycling, just so you know, they had not seen any gains, they had not run any gold medals since 1908, and they had 100 years of literally winning nothing. Now, they hired this gentleman, Brailsford, to end up coming and helping the British cyclery so that they could all of a sudden make a change in their business. Not a change in their business, so they could win, right? They wanted them to win. The funny thing is they were so bad, even like them trying to get bicycles, the local company wouldn't even sell it to them because they were so bad, and they thought it would hurt sales. But one of the things that he had a mentality of, and I just want to read it here, is he said, they had the strategy of aggregations of marginal gains. And what that means is that improve it by 1% and you will get a significant improvement. So over time, what he ended up doing is they went through and they just did small little simple things. Everything from getting up on time, going to bed on time. Then all of a sudden they started looking at other things they could change. How could they change the seat so it felt a little bit more comfortable? Could they wear a little bit something like that would warm up their legs so that their muscle tonality would stay stronger as they were going in the rain. They even got to the point where they started monitoring and painting the insides of the vans white, so if there was any dust inside of the vans, it wouldn't damage the bicycles. And then they started looking into lightweight, they started looking and hired a coach, they hired somebody that could help them stretch, they started doing icing. So over that time frame, they just started looking at every single point of what they could do in their cycling to just improve it one little bit, right? And within 5 years, they won 60% of the gold medals. So what I want to tell you is that small habits make a huge difference in your business. But oftentimes we think we have to make this huge, massive change, and usually it's just little tiny things that we're consistently doing that we just need to make adjustments on. Number one item to make sure you differentiate yourself in your business is You have to decide that this is your craft. This is the business that you are choosing to be the absolute best at. One of my favorite books that kind of really made me think about this thing, there's a book called Turning Pro, and this is Tap into Your Inner Power and Create Your Life's Work. And it talks about how there is a difference between an amateur and somebody that is a pro. I want you to think about the different type of experiences that you have when you go to certain places. So for example, if I go to Walmart to get a t-shirt and I want to pick that up and go to the front, how is that experience as I'm searching, I'm looking, I'm walking to the front, versus when I go to Nordstrom and I pick it out, somebody's helping me, right? If I want to go try it on, if my jeans are too long, what do they have there? Who's going to they can actually adjust them there, right? They have somebody that can hem your pants, tailors, right? And the experience is just completely different. But which one has a premium price and which doesn't? Which experience is completely different? There's a great book by Tony Hsieh. He's the gentleman that created Zappos and sold that company. Talks a ton about creating an experience. And so when I started kind of going down this journey, I started just thinking like the problem is there's a lot of things that you can replicate that I think makes a lot of sense in any business. But it gets to a point where, truth be told, is your number one differentiating factor in your business is going to be you. And being able to say what is important to me and how do I want to create my business, because it's going to make a huge difference. Now, in the beginning, that first year, I'll tell you, like I enjoyed investment properties and I did really well. Like I just focused on investment properties. That's all that I did. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I will tell you this, from my standpoint, I would tell you I wouldn't recommend it. This is why. Typically investors, they want to look at a ton of stuff. They aren't loyal. They make the worst offers. And when they go to sell it, they want the cheapest list price, right? Now, is it something that you should know and be able to understand and be able to talk about? Absolutely. That is one major part of this business, understanding margins, gains, repairs, physical conditions of properties. Like that is part of our business, right? Has anybody seen Jiro Loves Sushi on Netflix? You have to watch that, okay?
What's it about?
Jiro Loves Sushi, Jiro, okay? Now, in Jiro Loves Sushi, what he talks about in there is he talks about an art requires perfection. So this gentleman basically has a small sushi shop, and there's, I believe, 10 or 15 seats in that sushi shop. He's booked out 6 months in advance. He's the most expensive sushi restaurant in the entire country, I believe, and he's booked out. Now, when it shows like where he gets his rice. It's like the gentleman that like where he cultivates it, how he does it. It's like the best rice. Where he gets his tuna, like it is fresh, the freshest cut. It's from the deepest location. I mean, it's the best tuna out there. When he goes out and he gets all of his seaweed, right? And it just goes through this process of him just making this exquisite, amazing experience of every single piece of his business. And you walk through it, and he's a gentleman, and he does it one way. Like even how he presents it, depending on what hand that you eat with, he'll make sure that you sit in a certain spot, right? Like everything is a system and a process that not only is predictable predictable, but also creates this amazing experience. Okay. And when we talk about differentiating our business, it's truly doing those things. How do we differentiate our business? And so through this, as you have ideas of like, man, I could do this one thing because it's true to me, those are the things you want to write down. I oftentimes, every time, Tony Robbins, who's been to a Tony Robbins event? Okay, he talks about can I, right? Constant and never-ending improvement. He talks about what can I improve consistently. And he refers to a number of things. In our business, I'd say, every time I walk into an experience or something in our business, I'm like, what can we do to improve that, right? So let's just go back. If you have a client that is coming, in fact, I want to go back to that because I want to get through a couple things. Number two is we have to commit to mastery. Now, committing to mastery is this. I want every person, I hate saying spend money, but this is one of those things that I think everyone should have. Everyone should have Audible. Right now, it's just different where you can make your car your education center, and there's so much good information out there. You have to consistently be feeding your mind with the best things that are available. Please understand, like the folks that write books, they have maybe taken 10 years of the best years of their lives and they've condensed it into 8 hours of their best stuff. So if you haven't done that, please get Audible and start making that something. For my goal, I would tell you, I always read 10 pages a night. I know if I can read, and this is, again, it's a habit. If I don't put my book like on my table or right on where I'm going to go to bed, like I hate to say it, like I want to go do something else, or I have to reward myself, like I am not going to sit down and watch anything or do anything until I read, and then my reward is to do whatever, okay? If I read 10 pages a day, that's 300 pages a month, I can typically finish a book and a half a month, right? So I can read, at least finish myself anywhere from 15 to 20 books a year, depending, because sometimes you just read more than 10 pages because you're trying to finish the chapter, right? So just make sure that you're spending the time to invest in yourself, because that one thing I will tell you is maybe one of the #1 things for me that has been amazing. Because what happens is do you ever notice every once in a while we'll be in competition with somebody that they don't see us as a peer. They see us as a commodity. They maybe see us as somebody like, I've met with 10 of you guys and you're all the same. You know what I mean? Have we ever had that conversation with folks? So how do we separate ourselves? How do we differentiate ourselves? It's going to be through our conversations, through our knowledge, and through the information where they're like, man, they talk a different language. And that comes through us making it our craft and making ourselves truly having more education than every other person that we're ever going to work with. The great thing about this business, a lot of people, or not even this business, in the world in general, people just don't read. So if you can read and go to seminars, I will tell you, make that a part of your schedule, because you're going to have different conversations, different skill sets, and now as you're talking with people, they're going to see you in a different light, because truth be told is, my biggest challenge was when I sat down with a doctor or an attorney or somebody and they would treat me as a commodity, I was like, that is not how this is going to go. I'm like, this is my profession. I chose this as my profession. I am your expert advisor. And I said, okay, but I got to earn the right. How do I earn the right? By being more knowledgeable than them, right? And so just consider that. Dedication to excellence will set you apart more than any marketing plan or selling proposition. I will tell you, I have met with people that spend $150,000 a month on marketing. I will tell you, I've met with people that spend so much money on marketing and all these different things. Their margins are super low, but if you just dedicate yourself to doing the best and be consistent and provide an excellent value to people, that will supersede any marketing dollars at any time. It's the #1 thing I want you to think about as we're moving forward. Where are we at? 3, focus on new business development daily. Sounds silly, but you have to continue to grow your business and build a pipeline. The Morning Miracle is a fantastic book about waking up very early. The reason this is important is you have to get yourself in this business. You have to set yourself up for success. I will tell you, my business has suffered when I show up hoping that it's just going to work for me versus I wake up early, I take care of my mind and my body, I show up early and I'm ready to hit the ground running versus I kind of let the world happen to me. So waking up early is really going to change your real estate business, #1. The second part of that is master your schedule. Run your schedule and your business, and do not let people vampire your time out of that. So on your schedule, it needs to say, 1, if you're having a problem prospecting, put an alarm on your phone about why you're doing that. It could be because you want to pay out your house, you want to make money to buy a car, you just want to invest in something else, and you put that on there so that it reminds you why you're going to get on the phone at 8:30, okay? That schedule is what you keep, and nobody else can take you off of that. I've had people that want to set an appointment during those times, and it's just you cannot get off of that schedule, because if you ever notice, like when you get off of your schedule, it's so much harder to get back on it. You have to keep that schedule all the time. I had an assistant that I would pay $20 to every time I didn't hit my contacts. And I will not give away $20. I gave it to her once and I was so mad. I was like, this will never happen again, okay? And she would watch. She'd be like, hey, how many contacts? Where are you at? And then she'd be like, hey, I think you have an appointment you need to go to. And I'm like, tell them I'm going to be late, right? Because I was like, I have to hit my contacts, right? So just that is going to be making sure that you are relentlessly focused on your schedule, on your phone. Everything is in there. And the reason that's important too is because sometimes things, have you ever missed an appointment, right? It's embarrassing. Like, and it's because we haven't lived by it. And it's because we haven't been watching it. And then when we know what our schedule is going to do, it really helps you mentally to be like, look, like I have a lot to do today. And if you have nothing to do, prospect, okay? One of the things that I will say, and I hate to say it, guys, like what I talk about isn't honestly the most sexy because my business has been all about just grinding it out. I made my business on calling just listed, just solds, and really, my for sale by owners and expired were very limited. And so 50% of my business came from prospecting and 50% always had come from SOI, right? Those were the two things that I focused on. Once I hit 47 transactions, that's when I was really, really to the point where I was having a hard time prospecting, keeping up with the buyers and the sellers. That's when I ended up bringing on a buyer's agent to help me. We went from 47 to 67 to 101 to 151 to 206 to 207, right? This last year, it came down to 163. But the funny thing is what we said is we went back and said, look, what do we need to change in our business? And so we started adjusting our commissions. And so we adjusted them from a 6% to a 7% and charging a $79.95 transaction fee. So we went from 207 to 163. So that means if you look at those numbers, you know, that's almost 50 deals that I didn't have to deal with, and the income was $30,000 less. That's it. And it's crazy when you just say, I'm going to make a decision to make a change in my business and say, look, I'm going to set myself apart in a different way. And did we lose business? Absolutely. People were like, this is crazy. Like, nobody charges that. And it's like, no, but we have a different process. We just do things different. You know, so which one would you, you know, what would you like to do? So just know that those are the types of things I'm talking about. Last thing is with building your business is really focus on building a massive database. Right now is your opportunity. Just every time when you're having really authentic conversations, some of the coaches are like, hey, if they're not ready to go within 3 months, throw them away. And I've never been, I understand not wasting your time with people, but it's okay to keep their information and follow up with them, but you need to get permission. Think about the world of marketing, how much people will pay for a database of email addresses. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get your email addresses because they know they have the opportunity to connect with you. So if you have a really good, authentic conversation with somebody, you can ask them, hey, I do some real estate updates every once in a while, typically, depending on when you do them. I do a real estate update every month or every quarter. Would it be okay if I stayed in touch with you and if you had any questions about your real estate needs, that you feel can call me anytime? Get their permission, and they say, great, let me just get your name and your email address. And you plug them in your database. You never know how many people are going to need your assistance. And if they have your permission and you're providing information and data that's really good, they're not going to care. And if they do end up caring, guess what? They unsubscribe, right? And you take them off the list. But building that database is going to be the most important right now because business has been super easy. And as you're building that database, the difference is sometimes we're like, well, look, I've closed 10 deals a year for the last 4 years or 20 deals a year for the last 4 years. The problem with that is it's like, okay, I've closed 20, it's been 4 years. I've got 80 people in my pipeline. That's tough when you only have 80 people. But when you've got those 80 people, you probably got a hold of anywhere from 10 to 15 people a week you possibly could have added to your database, and that could be 1,000 people that you're marketing to versus just 80. So change your mindset in regards to what those opportunities are. The other thing is you need to leverage your opportunities when you're going on appointments. So for example, you're going to go meet somebody at a house, okay, in a certain neighborhood. When you're showing up, when you're having a different type of experience, let's just talk really open, really quick. If we're showing up to a property and you're looking for the best experience you can possibly have with somebody brand new, what would you expect them to do? What are some things we could do when we show up to a property the first time meeting a prospect? What's some ideas?
Show up on time.
Show up on time.
Dress professional.
Dress professional. What else?
Be excited.
Great, I love that. Anything else?
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Now, a lot of people aren't saying anything. I want you to think world class now, okay? What's world class? Like, what would you be like, whoa, like, I didn't expect that. You know what I mean?
Bringing some sort of gift,
Okay.
flowers or.
Bring a gift. Fantastic. What else?
Something personal. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. What else?
To me, I would just think concise information that is directly pertaining to why you're there and why they had you out.
Fantastic. Love that.
Give them a copy of the basic information of each property you show them.
Perfect. Love that. These are great ideas. Again, everything is true to you. I'm just going to try to expand your thinking, right? Because they may meet a lot of people, right? Have you already met? Well, yeah, I met this guy and then I met this guy. And just remember, people are looking somebody that they can trust and have confidence in. I have met people that are the attorneys, guys that have sold tons of properties, and every single one of them wanted to work on their own because they truly could. But the moment that they're busy, a lot of time it's not about the money, it's just they feel like they can do it better than you, right? But the moment that they feel like, whoa, like they got me, I'm okay getting on the bus with these guys and they're gonna take me, I'm gonna be safe with them, they're done, okay? The other thing with people like that is they know a lot of professionals. And so the more that you stay in touch with them and the more that they see you as a professional, you start separating yourself from the pack, okay? Consider this as an option, okay? I'm gonna go look at a property and I'm gonna go show a buyer, investor who? What? Tell me what? An investor. Okay, I'm gonna go show an investor. So I'm gonna go show them a property. I'm gonna end up showing up with a couple different things. I'm thinking from an investor mindset. There's a couple of things I have to think forward on, right? Number one, they wanna know, what are the things they wanna know?
Numbers.
What?
Return ROI.
ROI,
The cap rate.
cap rate,
Repairs, maintenance, deferred maintenance.
yep, exactly. All those things, right? So I'm typically gonna show up. I'm gonna make sure that I have a manila folder, which of course I didn't bring. Let's see here. I have a couple of things here. I have a manila folder. I'm gonna make sure I bring the property data and description of the property. I'm gonna make sure I bring values with me so they know what the sales prices are in the area. Now this is something this is called rent range. It costs me $14 every time I print it, but it gives all the data to the area. It gives all of the rents and the information. I use this on listings, I use this with investors, and I use it with normal buyers. Why would I not use this with a normal buyer?
So they can see what it would cost to own as opposed to renting.
It's great. So sometimes, is investor kind of a sexy word? Does everybody kind of want to be an investor?
Yes.
Is that fair to say? Everyone wants to be an investor. Nobody wants to be like broke, okay? So think about this conversation. Everyone wants to be an investor. So what if the conversation was, look, even if I'm showing a normal home buyer, hey, I just want to let you know this is probably a great house. Here's the values showing the information. However, one of the things you need to think about is rather than we selling this home, what if we just kept this home and rented it, made this an investment property, and then we got into something else in 2 years? Oh, and I've also printed out the rent rates for you of what the current rents are. Just so you know, rent rates are supposed to go up about 2.5% this year, maybe 2.5% the next year. Article printed inside of it, right? Just think about it. If not, this property doesn't work, guess what? When we end up selling the property, what if we consider taking half the proceeds to buy another property and then end up getting you into another home?
It shows different range of professional knowledge.
Yes.
Great.
Dude, has anybody ever talked to him about that? Nobody, not one person. I had a guy come into up here. His uncle was a broker. He had a duplex that he was selling, and he came in and said, "Hey, I don't even know why I'm in here, but give me your dog and pony show and let's hear what you have to say." Right? That's literally what he said to me. And at first I was kind of pissed because I was like, I'm not even gonna spend my time with you, right? And so what happened is I sat down with him and I said, look, tell me what you're doing. Like, why are you selling a duplex? Because most people want to keep their investment properties, not sell them. Tell me why you're selling it, right? Well, I want to take my home. I want to buy this other property. My family's growing, and so I wanted to selling it that way. Great. Just curious, why the investment property? Well, because I want to take all the money and I want to stick it there. Great. Tell me about some of your goals in general. Like, other than that, like, I found out that he was a firefighter, and I found out kind of just how many kids and what their names were. The good thing is a lot of times with me, asking questions, and you kind of have to have a level of confidence of just want to have a conversation. It's not about selling them anything. It's about providing value and understanding to them. But he just started telling me about, well, he's like, I really do want to have investment properties, and that's what I'd like to have over the next 5 to 10 years. And I said, so why are we selling this? He's like, well, I need it for the other property. And so I said, look, let's go through this. Took out a sheet of paper, wrote down what he owed, took out the number, basically did a net sheet with him. And I was like, and I say this a lot, try this on like you try on a jacket, right? What if we took the money you had in savings right here, we bought the other property, and then we took this and we ended up saving this because this over the long term is going to provide you more money. Long story short, he'd had that property in a year, he could never sell it, and he's like, I've met with 8 agents and nobody has told me this. So guess what? He kept the duplex, we got him into another home, and he's referred us like 1 million people because he's like, oh my gosh, they like know what they're doing. And all it was having a basic understanding of what he owed, what his needs were, and what options were. And that's a really fundamental difference. Is a lot of times in this business, we just don't spend the time, we end up spending so much time pitching. This is how great I am, these are my cards, and not just listening. Because at the end of the day, when they're being heard and they know that you can solve their problem, this energy just goes away. Naturally, let's see your hand. See him pushing on me like he's pushing his chair. We are just natural pushback. That's just how we're built.
He didn't even tell you to do that.
Yeah, that's how we're built, man. And so the thing I want you to think about is just making sure that when we are doing things, we're providing unbelievable value. But that's like my mindset, right? That's not the right way. That's just a thing of like when you're coming to an appointment, what is it that they maybe need a little bit different, Okay, I need you to be a marketer that happens to sell real estate. Folks, this is a marketing business. Now, marketing doesn't have to mean this. It means that you are reaching out to people on a consistent basis. Now, so one of the recommendations I have as you're really trying to build your brand, I would recommend you read everything you can on branding, okay? It's very good to know, it's good to understand, just so that you start making small little tweaks in your business, the way that you communicate, the way you present information to the market, and the way that people look at information. Sometimes we just say like, I think they'll like this, but we really don't know what the consumer wants, okay? Ask for feedback from your clients. Like, hey, if you were looking for information in the market, what would you want to see from me, right? And just ask like your top people that like, you know what, I'd like to know statistics. Hey, I'd like to know data. I'd like to know what the market's doing. I don't want any information from you. You call me all the time. So just be aware, like there's a number of things like that. You have to be in contact with your SOI. You need to know the fundamentals of marketing differentiation, how to properly present a brand so it looks, feels, and is authentic to you. What I have and the way I do things isn't going to match what your brand is. I love like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm forgetting their names because I'm up here. Love Lake City, right? They have a brand of doing service, right? And doing things like that. It's an awesome, like that's true to them. Like they enjoy it and they like it. Some people could care less about it. Other people like absolutely adore it. But that's true to them. Like that's what they enjoy doing. And so it ends up being something of their brand of who they are. And if you can focus on what you like and who you are, you'll see your business double and triple versus you just see these moderate gains. Because frankly, if it's you invest more energy and time, and it's like that excitement and energy is a part of you now because you're vibed about what it produces for others, right? With your SOI, I want you to think about a couple things. You have to regularly be in contact with them, regularly ask for referrals, and you really need to have a marketing campaign in place. So when I say a marketing campaign, have a systematic process to reach out to them. I brought like my newsletter that I send out every quarter to our clients. Right here, pass it around. I'll just show you. I mean, this is the simplest little thing. Before, it was a front and a back. That's all it was. The front page was about the national market. The back page was, or the front page was about the market. The back page was about me. Right? This is what we've been doing. This is what we've been enjoying, or doing whatever. Right? I was trying to just make it personal to me. I didn't think about what does the market want to hear. I was just like, yeah, I just want to send something out to my friends. Okay? Just like you'd send out a card or a Christmas letter or whatever. Then, after a little while, I was like, you know what, I want to have national news, and then I want to have some article about the market, and then I want something from us. So, I mean, again, this isn't the right way. I've just been consistent at it. But every time I send this out, I get a couple, 2, 3 deals. People are always in contact with us. It's totally even folded the wrong way. But, you know, you can kind of just look at that front and back, and it just shows data and information. My recommendation is you do a 33 touch program. I reach out to our clients probably over 50 times. Okay, go ahead.
Justin, do you mail that or email it or?
Mail it. There's a really great book by Dan Kennedy. In fact, I have it here. Let me go over these really quick with you just so that I don't forget them. Number one is the greatest salesman in the world, Og Mandino. You have to be able to negotiate, right? You have to be able to understand like what people want and be on their behalf. When you negotiate a deal and wow the customer, they're like, whoa, right? I mean, I've had things where the people are like, just do the roof repair, we're gonna be fine, like just get it done. I gotta sell this house. And so I went back and I said, hey, this roof repair is an issue, just curious, how much you guys really need so that we can try to make this work, because it's really gonna put a strain on my clients. And then for $1,000, the roof repair was done. And then guess what happens when you call the client back? Hey, I just want to let you know, I really appreciate you telling me that you've taken care of the roof. I was able to negotiate it. You're going to probably save about $6,000. You're going to do it for $1,000. Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. No, this is going to work out great. And if there's another problem, guess what? Now we have $6,000 in money you thought you'd spend to maybe take care of the other things. All right? Because you just never know what's going to happen, right? What did I do? We wowed them, we set a new expectation, and now we're just like, we're in their court, right? They know they can know, like, and trust you. When's the best time to ask for a referral? Right? Number one is when you're in a regular communication because you talk to them 3 times that week, right? The other part is you're like, hey, just curious, I know we talked about this, but just curious, is there anyone else in you guys' neighborhood that you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate that I can help, right? Man, I don't know, I'll think about it. So just think about that. This one, Atomic Habits by James Clear, really amazing book to make you think about your habits, what to do. He in fact gives an example about putting a book on your bed and stuff. But talks about these 1% increases and changes. I don't even say changes, just adjustments. Really, really powerful. We're reading this as a team. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeff Blount. If you're ever having any hesitations or you're just like, man, this is really weighing on me, just read this book and take pieces from it. This is the #1 book whenever a brand new agent asks me about this business that I give, and I say, please read it, because I think this is a phenomenal book that everybody should have, okay? Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf, he went to prison. So one of the things he says about this in this, if anybody's seen The Way of the Wolf, he made his way by selling penny stocks, and it was illegal and so forth. The good thing about this book is he has really phenomenal ways of talking to people, and he goes into like selling to people now to help them versus hurt them, right? So that's kind of his spin to make sure he doesn't look like a total felon. This book, No BS Direct Marketing, anything from Dan Kennedy is kind of old school marketing. That's why I like physical letters. There's something about opening something physical and opening it because they keep them sometimes. And so there's something about that physical item in their mail. We're going to just go through quickly. Oh my goodness. We're going to go through quickly just a couple things of building a team around you. But this book, The Energy Boss, is a really fantastic book about it.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. We kind of went over this, but I want you to just, again, think proactive every time you're meeting with somebody. think of the difference when you have either a buyer or a seller or somebody that you're in contact with when they show up here. Do you ever notice that sometimes when somebody's here, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're already here. And you show up and your jacket's off, and you're not really ready, and you've got like papers, and you're like bringing them, right? And sometimes we have to think about like, okay, hold on. If I'm providing a world-class experience to this person, what would you expect happens when you show up to somebody that's going to help you with your biggest asset, right? Number one, I'm going to go up front and I'm going to say, hey, I have this board for you to just place up here. I have Margaret coming in at 3 p.m. Right? Hello, Margaret. Happy to see you. And I want you to just set it up here. Would you be okay with that? Great. She's going to come at 3. If she comes early, would you please make sure you do let me know? Margaret's coming at 3, right? But rather than waiting for them to call you, you're waiting there and you have something, you're holding the sign, and if you have something of whatever they need, and you're just like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I have a room that's already ready for us, right? Rather than they're sitting, they're waiting, they're hoping you show up like you're unready, right? They just see you as an amateur, right? They're just like, they're not ready for me. And it's not even like they're thinking that, it's just it comes off as that, right? There's a difference between somebody that's polished and ready to go versus somebody that just shows up and wings it. So again, living by your calendar, you're putting those things early to be, I am gonna show up 10 minutes early. On every listing, you're gonna drive the neighborhood about and look at the properties that you've already pulled up. Why? Because when you go to the listing appointment, you just let them know because they see you sitting out front, right? Because you're early. People respect your time. You respect theirs. They respect yours. And then when you go to the appointment, you're just like, yeah, I had a chance to obviously go by the properties that we listed. Some of them obviously have some great curb appeal, and some of them are just some really great photos. Would you agree? Yeah. Again, those little differentiating factors are different because nobody else said that. Nobody else went through and took the time to evaluate the values that they brought with them, right? So just consider these small little things because they make a difference. I want you to imagine if you're hiking a mountain and behind you every single time, every 15, 20 steps, somebody's just throwing a rock or a pebble in your backpack, right? And the longer you go, it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier. So finally when you get to the top, it's so heavy, like you almost can't stand it anymore. And my mindset is that you're stacking value, right? You're constantly doing small little items, so by the end they're like, I can't go to anybody else, because you've just done so many little things. For me, it was important to make sure I did have an assistant answering the phone and introducing me, just so you know. The reason that was important to me is to differentiate myself when people were calling in, okay? That was again, 10 years in the business, doing some different things, right? Like I was still closing an amazing amount of properties without that. I'm just saying, just know that was one for me mentally that I was like, how do we make a change with that?
What do you mean by an assistant introducing you? How would she introduce you?
So they'd call in and say, hey, can I speak with Justin? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Can I ask who's calling? Yeah, this is so-and-so. Great. I'm his personal assistant. He is on a call right now. Tell me what I can do to assist you, right? And all of this is scripted, by the way, okay? Yeah, what can I do to assist you?
I just need to talk to him about our property that we're trying to sell.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what. Justin likes me to make sure we have all of the information prepared before he's going to come out and meet you. Do you have a second where he can go over the details with you? Great. And then, now again, how does a professional show up to any property, right? You have a list of questions, you take notes, right? And so this same thing that I arrived to the property with, she just fills out. Okay, let me get your name. What's your address? What's your email address? How long have you lived in the home? Have you made any repairs on the property? Hey, just curious, from 1 to 10, what would you rate your property from 1 to 10? Would you describe where it's located in the neighborhood? What sold you on the property? What are the top 3 things that you're looking for in the 8? What are the top most important things in selling your home, right? And then obviously after they've kind of been in rapport and they're already talking with her, then it goes through the questions. Hey, just curious, what are you hoping to net from this property when you end up selling it? There's 2 questions, by the way. What are you hoping to sell this property? What other homes sold for in your neighborhood, right? So they kind of get an idea. What are you hoping to sell the property for? Okay, just curious, what do you currently owe on the property? How many have asked if somebody what they own the property, or nervous to ask what they own the property? I always was super nervous, right? But once they're in rapport,
Yeah.
and they're having this conversation about everything, hey, what do you own the property, right?
Yeah.
Because I hate to say it, now what have they done? They're pre-qualifying them. Also, they just took 30 to 45 minutes out of your schedule. And this is about kind of running your business like a business, where it comes down to what is your highest and best use, right? Where do I make the most amount of time? Typically, it's prospecting, lead follow-up, attending appointments, right, and negotiating deals. That's where your money is made, not sitting on the phone talking to them about that stuff. Now, it doesn't mean that after this is done, I'm going to be, hey, thanks so much for calling in. Looks like we're set up for tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I have a couple questions for you. I always have a couple questions. Hey, just curious in regards to this. Just when you did the hardwood floors, did you end up doing a specific type of hardwood floor that I need to make sure I make an upgrade amount for, or did you end up doing it yourself and with some laminate or whatever they say, right? And just again connecting with them. Okay, great. Well, I'm excited to see you. Now, going and setting expectations is very important, because I'm going to make sure on every appointment, now my assistant will say it at the end and I'll say it at the end. So when I come out tomorrow, this is whether it's a cold lead or a warm lead, what we're going to do is I'm going to walk the property with you. We're going to go over our marketing plan with you. I'm going to bring all the paperwork so we're ready to get the home on the market. Do you have any questions about any of those or have an issue with any of that?
No.
No, okay, great. So now they know I'm coming there to deliver and get it done. I'm not coming out there to look. I'm not coming out there to have fun. This is what I'm going to bring, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to bring everything with me. Are you ready to go?
Well, we don't always say yes when we talk about, I say, well, I'm not ready to list, I just want you to bring that information.
For sure, absolutely. So I just want to make sure when we come out, are you looking for just a general evaluation of the home, or are you looking to get your home on the market?
On the market, but I am going to interview more realtors.
Absolutely. Oh, that sounds fantastic. So just curious, what other agents, what are you going to be meeting with, and when are you meeting them? So we want to make sure we specify the time so we can make sure that we're getting you what you need.
Oh, okay.
Who else will you be meeting with, and when are you meeting them?
Joe and Jim at 4 and at 5.
Okay, fantastic. Looks like we're set up for 3. Why don't we do this? Now, this may be when I'm going to change the appointment to 6, right? Looks like we're a little bit close in time to that 4 o'clock. This is what I'd like to do. I want to make sure I'm getting you the information. You called me because you know that you called me because I want to make sure I'm getting you everything I can to make sure your home sells for the most amount of money. It looks like here the 3 most important things are blah, 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 right? I need a little bit more time. Do me a favor. If we set our appointment for 6, would that be an issue?
Instead of 3?
Yes.
That'd be okay.
Okay, great. Can you just promise me one thing? If I come out at 6, I'm going to make sure I spend a couple hours making sure that I have every amount of data possible. Plus, I'm going to go drive by the properties that have sold in your neighborhood, those that haven't sold, and also those that are active. So I just want to make sure I'm going to have the time to do that. Will you promise me that when I come out, that just when those other 2 agents meet with you, they're going to really want you to sign the paperwork? Will you just promise me that you'll meet with me first before you make any decisions?
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you promise? Okay, great. All right, well, I'll be there at 6 o'clock and then we'll go over it. Why did I do that?
You want to be the last closer. That way they've got all the information and you can go.
That's right. Why else? Why did I say, do you promise?
The commitment.
I just want a commitment.
Yeah, you want a commitment to you that they're willing to, hey, at least hear you out.
Yep, exactly. I just want to hear them say, I promise, right? Because I want to make sure that and again, I don't want to guilt them into it. I just want to make sure I have the opportunity. Now, if it's somebody that's super warm, I may end up saying, great, well, why don't I come out? And if what I say makes sense, do you feel like you're going to be ready to move forward? Because if you're ready to move forward, I'd be happy to call the other agents and let them know, look, if you have some buyers, bring them. And I kind of have that conversation depending on who the client is. Because they may say, I feel like I have to interview them just because I'm going to do it. And then that's when they maybe go through the conversation of like, well, look, are you looking to just interview a bunch of people? Or are you looking to get the home sold for the most amount of money? Because I can look up their data for you. In fact, if you want, I'll bring their data with me and just compare and contrast. If there's a better agent that should be selling your home, guess what? I'm going to totally back away. Because I really want you to get the best agent. But based on what you've told me, let's go through it. And I brought the data of the other agents sold 4 homes, sold 2 homes. And I bring a list of like 80 homes, and I throw it down, and I'm like, look, like this is something that we're going to just do we just do things different.
And how do
Right.
you handle it if they won't tell you their names? Just come-
No, I just say,
Or
oh,
they
that's
just
great.
list companies, not names of agents.
No, and I was like, that's fantastic. And said, you know, the only reason I ever asked that is sometime on your side, you're hearing somebody that's saying, I've got great marketing and I've got great this. What I'm maybe just introducing to you, if you'd like, I'll bring you the data so that you can compare and contrast resumes between me and the other one. That way, it's full disclosure. That way, if they sell more homes in your price range, you're gonna see it in black and white. I have nothing to hide.
I love the promise because it creates an emotional level of trust before you even get there. And what you did was masterful when you said, you know, before I come out there, will you do me a favor? I'm gonna do a lot of research on the property, pull up a lot of numbers, I'm gonna go visit these other homes that we're looking at. So you actually created value before you asked them to promise, which is critical because I've gone up against other agents who said, hey, will you promise you don't list the home until after I meet with you? And they gave no reason and no value, they just asked for the promise. So you need to give a reason and value, some content as to why they're going to commit to you on that level and see that they can see value in that.
In your communication, one of the things that I'll tell you that I've learned over time is you always give something and then you adjust and then you pivot, right? Meaning, there's a couple books. There's a book by Cialdini called Persuasion, and he talks about when you give somebody something, they just feel like they want to reciprocate, right? And he talks about it can be something physical. Like one of the ideas that I ended up having is I was like, okay, what could I do in a class about that? Even if I just came in and gave everybody a water, right? And then I started asking personal questions to you, it would be different. Because now all of a sudden I gave you something, so now you're like, oh, like, he gave me something, so there's this different level of trust, right? And we're not conning anybody, it's just our natural tendencies. Like if we're givers, like, be a giver, you know? But sometimes we put up these bounds of like what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be. Next item is always be recruiting, okay? When I'm saying recruiting, what I'm referring to is building the team around you that is providing a world-class experience to your clients. This includes your handyman, your title company, your lender. You have to be thinking about the experience that they're having because when you refer somebody to them, what happens is they're reflecting it on you. So build your team around you because that may make it amazing. I've had my lender call me so many times and they're like, hey, so-and-so reached out. They're doing this and that because they have a system and a process that's amazing in follow-up, and so they just have an ability to let us know. Whereas I had another lender at one time that I referred him a client, he's like, hey, just want to let you know, they started looking at houses and then they just sent me a contract and it's through another agent. I was like, great, like, so what did you say to him? Well, I really didn't say anything. I just was like, okay, cool, thanks for the contract. And so you have to script with every single one of your vendors what to say in those experiences. Oh man, yeah, this is through so-and-so, you can't do that. There's no way. I was like, you gotta go through Justin. Well, he didn't show us that. I get it, but you gotta go through Justin. Like this does not make sense. And I tell them, you have to be willing to lose the deal because I brought you the deal. Does that make sense? I gifted that to him. And guess what? Never got another deal from me, ever again. And he calls me all the freaking time. Why? I could have fed him hundreds of deals. And then I could have got that deal back, right? But because he wasn't willing to like show like that, hey, no, like this is the best. Like you gotta go this way. This does not make sense, right? It ended up costing him hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I love that you do that. I've even gone scripted with my lender, sat down with him and ran over a script and had a printed out script for him and for his assistant as well.
Yep.
Working with any of my clients.
It's
I think that's
hard.
critical, too.
It's work, right? And we talk about these 1% changes. These are things that are like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Common sense is not common practice, folks, right? You have to make it a system. And you just pick 5 things every quarter. Like here's the 5 things I'm gonna pick. This is what I'm gonna do. And this is what I'm gonna implement. 5 things this quarter, this is what I'm gonna implement. 5 things this quarter, this is what I'm gonna implement. When I sat down with my first assistant, and again, this was me saying, I need to make a change in my business. We wrote down 100 things on a board, and she just had the job of implementing. And over 2 years, we implemented all 100 things. But I had to hire an implementer, right? That was me paying somebody 70 grand a year versus 35 grand a year that I had in the past, right? Like I was making a change, saying I've got to do something different in my business to elevate myself. Right now, I'm in the Masters in Real Estate Development course at the U, right? Because I just need that next level of knowledge, experience, network, people, right? Is it going to help my real estate business? Probably not one bit. But I'm going to be a different person and have a different level of knowledge that now can essentially take me to the next step, right? So calling leads, here's a statistic. You've got to call them back in 5 minutes. Here's the numbers. 48% of salespeople never follow up with the prospect. 25% of salespeople make second contact and stop. 12% only make 3 contacts and stop. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts, okay? When we're talking about leveraging opportunities, when I go to an appointment and I'm gonna show a house, and that's the only house I'm gonna show, you're already in a neighborhood, you're already in an area. What if you brought with you your business cards or something, whether it be a printout of the market data or whatever, and you knock the doors for the next hour in that neighborhood? How many use Remind?
What is it?
I don't look at it.
Okay, I need to show you this, because this is like, you've already paid for it. All right, I don't have time. This is what I want you to do. Write Remind down, R-E-M-I-N-E. When you go to the MLS forms, on the bottom left side, you click Remind. Okay, on Remind, it has you log in, it takes you to another site, and you can look in there, and you can, now there's some data that's hidden and whatever, but you can find out in that neighborhood what's expired, what's in default, what's on the market, and guess what? If you're gonna knock that neighborhood, what would I say to an expired if I'm knocking a neighborhood with a new buyer? Hey, I just showed XYZ property in your neighborhood. I'm looking for a really good home. It looks like your property was previously on the market. Just curious, are you folks considered selling still? Right? How many people knocked on their door? Probably nobody, right? Do you have a value proposition? Right? Now all of a sudden you've just set yourself apart. I just showed this with a buyer. It didn't quite work out. They liked the house, but they didn't absolutely love it. They've asked me to look around the neighborhood. Now, if you're looking around the neighborhood and knocking doors, that show proactive or reactive, right? It's showing you that like you do things a little bit different, right? And so just know like those are the little things that I think make a huge difference that we just don't think about. With open houses, I always would print out all the vacant properties in the neighborhood and have it with me because I'm like, hey, like if somebody likes a property, I'm like, hey, there's a couple vacant homes. If after this open house, why don't I go show them to you? It's like you're already spending the time there. Why not already like utilize it and leverage your time at that location to get business? One time I had a house over here in Murray, and that property I showed the house to, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I went through and I was like, I don't even think they showed up. To the people didn't even show up. And so I was like, okay, well, I was like, I have all my stuff, so I'm ready to knock the doors. And I got 3 properties, 3 people that were buying and selling just on the street, just from knocking the doors. Hey, I had a buyer for this property. As, you know, same thing. And that wasn't having Remind or any of that. That was just me saying, hey, I'm already here. It's 5:30. I'm not going to go home. People are home. So why don't I take that opportunity to take advantage of it, right? So anyway, just take their information down. Know that you should really be calling people a minimum of 12 times before you really should go away. Because I hate to say it, like people get busy, people get tired, kids get sick. Like you just have to have a follow-up system. Josh Johnson said something that was really good in regards to a CRM. He just said, use the one that you're going to use. It doesn't matter what you use. I use an Excel spreadsheet forever. And then I use Top Producer, which was like $49 a month forever, okay? So just use something so you can follow up with folks and just make sure that you're staying in touch with them. In Jordan Belfort's Rules for Every Conversation, This is one of the biggest challenges of why you have to have things in front of you. His thing is one, be absolutely enthusiastic. 2, you have to be sharp as a tack. 3, know that you're a force to be reckoned with. If you think about those 3 phrases, who do you need to be, what do you need to provide, what type of knowledge, skill, and abilities do you need to have, and be ready to be able to deliver that so people feel comfortable. What happens is you need to exude competence, helpfulness, and energy. You guys, I want to just skip over this because we're at time. Go ahead.
Real quick, you said you follow up 12 times with each lead?
Yes. And in fact, so we'll call and text. So you guys, this is a thing, like, I want you to think about, like, so for example, every interaction is an opportunity to either just connect and network with people, okay? Oftentimes, one of the first things I ever learned is that when I call a prospect, the guy that I worked with at the loan company said, who do you think he got on the phone, talked to somebody, and he said, who do you think I was talking to? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, a friend? He's like, it sounded like it, huh? He's like, I've never talked to him before, and I treated him like a friend. And so there is a skill set of kind of letting our boundaries down, being able to like just be able to speak with people in a different way and doing things. I actually wanted to call this guy because I met him a month ago. And I've just been in contact with him. He mentioned, he's like, hey, I've got a $650,000 home I want to sell. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. You know, I had gone by I can't remember why. He was like, I went by the property. Oh, he wanted me to just walk the property with him, and for some reason he was really busy. And so I said, okay, I'll go there the next day. And then he found out that his little daughter she was turning 5 the next day. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so awesome, you know? And again, this wasn't being fake. It was like just kind of like, oh, that's so fun. Like, what are you gonna do tomorrow? And all these things. And then his wife, like for some reason I got out of him that she likes like the crumble, whatever. So the next day I bought crumble, 4 of those cookies, and I brought them for her. And then I just brought like a coloring book and something else for the daughter, right? And I said, hey, here's the information. Also, I heard somebody has a birthday, and I gave him that stuff, right? Now, the thing is now every single week I'm calling him. And so I wanted to call him in front of you just so you can see like how literally I talk to every single prospect. He might not answer it. Can't laugh. Let me say something. He sent me a text and then I didn't realize I had a question at the very bottom of it.
Sorry, I missed your call. Please leave a message and I'll call you back. The mailbox is full. I cannot.
That's full of your messages.
Well, messages.
So often.
Oh, that's awesome. What's that?
Do you have anybody else you can call?
I'm trying to think of who else I could call. The problem is like God, we'd be in here for like 15 minutes.
Call random.
But the main thing is like with him, it'd basically be like, hey, what's up, Nate? How you doing, man? And like, oh, it's going good. And I'd probably say something like, hey, is your wife still talking about me because I brought those cookies? You know, and I'd be like, I told her you're, I can't remember what I said last time. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing and you know it, you know. And then I'm like, look, I'm just following up. He's doing repairs in his house. Hey, just checking in. Do you need anything? Do you need any referrals or anything you need in regards to your property? No, I'm good. I'm like, cool. I'm like, just so you know, I looked at your neighbor's property again. It looks like they dropped it again. And so I was like, I don't know, when we get ready to put it on the market, just know like, I'm gonna make sure I'm watching that for you. So anything else you guys need? And I'm like, go ahead.
Well, finish your thought.
And that's it. And then so is there anything else you need? No, I'm good. And I'm like, look, I know I bugged you. I was like, but just curious. I know you're not quite ready, but is there anyone else you know that maybe I could help that's looking to buy or sell real estate? That's really weird if you're only calling him once a week, okay? You gotta call him, I would almost tell you 5, 6, 7 times before you're asking for that, for me personally. Just because the problem is mentally we're like, I don't have the time, but the problem is like if they're gifting you 15 grand, like you can call them 6 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One time I was sitting at home and my wife, I was complaining about somebody calling me at like 7:30 or 7:45, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 7:45, like, you know, whatever, you know, just being an idiot. And she's just like, how big is that deal? I'm like, it's like 700,000. She's like, so you're gonna make 28 grand and you can't take a call at 7:30? She's like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to put things in perspective, right? And so just sometimes we think about those things of like, yeah, we have to master our time, have a schedule, and you know, we have to put things, but sometimes you have to be like, look, how do I provide the best level of service to people?
So just a quick plug for Remind. One of the co-founders of it, he was a former like #1 in the world producer in real estate. So he knows the stuff, and you can even do more formulas outside of what you mentioned. It's an awesome tool. But I just really quickly, I know we're wrapping up, but I hope you guys hear within what Justin is saying. Before I came on, before I knew about Justin, I just heard he's a marketer. He's like an excellent marketer, right? Marketing guru. And if you're hearing an underlying theme within this, there's asking questions, but there's identifying the person you're talking to better than anyone else. I'm sure he's asked all the time and about people saying, how did you know to say that? Or repeat that. What did you say? Like, say that again. How would you know to say that? And again, it's because he can identify that individual. Did you hear in his tone and what he was saying? If I'm a FSBO, if I'm selling my own house for the first time, what am I thinking? What's going to wow me when someone comes to my door? So he sees that better than a lot of other people do. So start shifting your mind from what do I need to say and what's important to me that they're going to choose me for, and start looking along the side of what's important to them. And if you don't know them, like that example that you've given, you'd ask the right questions. You backed up. Think you said, let's try this jacket on.
Yeah, just try it on like
But
you
you
try on
backed
a
up
jacket.
because you couldn't identify that individual, but through asking questions and starting general, you're able to uncover a need that individual didn't know that he had. So just start thinking along those lines. Like, if I put myself in that person's shoes, if I'm cooking dinner and my kids are yelling and someone knocks on my door, what is my thought process? What does someone need to say or look like for me to want to talk to them?
And one of the things I'll say is like, whenever you're meeting with people, and I've written it somewhere, but 90% of the time needs to be listening, 10% talking about stuff. And that's the one thing I think I've learned is like, I thought I had to tell them all this stuff and all these things. And truth be told is like, people just want to be heard and they want to know if you can solve their problem. And that's for sale by owners, expireds, all of that. That's just, can you solve their problem? I met with a gal, $950,000 home. And she was not going to sign. She's like, I'm not going to sign. I was like, I'm just curious because she's there with her husband. I was like, 3 heads are better than 2. Just curious, like, do you feel like the marketing plan's going to work? Yes. Do you feel comfortable and confident with me? Believe me, you're not going to hurt my feelings, but do you feel comfortable and confident that I can help you get the home sold? Yes. Great. What is the main thing that you feel like is the major thing that's like, you're not ready to go? And I said, just know, like, I'm okay with you waiting, but what I heard you say was, you've already got another property and you want this sold as quickly as possible. So I'm just trying to like, I heard you say that, so on my end, I'm thinking, I want this up in a week, not call you in a week. So just help me understand, right? Now this is totally like, I use a lot of hand gestures where I go in, and I'm like, boom, 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 and then I'll be like, just tell me why. Why do I sit back? Because now all of a sudden you're like, give it to me, right? Tonality and posture. I really want to try to keep selling it on my own. And I was like, when you say that, do you mean you just want to do it for sale by owner? Or if you find your own buyer, you don't pay me a commission while I'm marketing it? Yeah, the second one. I was like, great. Why don't you keep marketing it? I'll market it my way. Let's have a race. Right? You'll do that? I was like, yeah, let's just write it in the contract. If buyer, and I said, and I'll tell you what, if you need help with the paperwork, the title company, repairs, maintenance, getting people in and out, dealing with all the issues, even some small level of negotiation, I'll just charge you 1%. How's that? That way, if you find the buyer and you need help, 1%. If you want to do it on your own, you do it on your own. Yeah, that actually sounds really good. Great. Wrote it in the contract. We had a buyer, double-ended it. $950 in 2 days. It's under contract, closing in a week. But that was her problem, right? That one little teeny tiny little thing. Now, a lot of times mentally we're like, man, I wouldn't do that. Like, what if they do sell it on their home? So what? Like, if they did sell it on your home, you had a $950,000 home, you hopefully had it on the market. The one thing I want you to think about in differentiating and think about marketing in general, every listing you have, you should get 5 transactions from, okay? If we think that way, it's different. 1 from a sign call, 1 from the seller, right, because they would give you a referral, the buyer, because you're either bringing the buyer or you became and you adopt that buyer over time, and you're mailing them. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, and then we are also getting, the other ones we're getting from because we've called around the neighborhood and we've also got a listing there and then we had a grand open house for it. If I was to go into any market brand new, I would cold call every single day and I'd have an open house every Saturday. But I'd make sure I had a strategy around it, right? Calling, knocking doors, doing things where I'm reaching out to people, okay? The last thing I just want to tell you before we go here is just everything you have, you can always make an improvement. This gal here had, I went to an open house, because I'll drop my open houses so I can see the competition. Usually it's like on my way home or doing something. Just drive by to just peek in for literally like 2 minutes. And this lady had this like how to buy a home, right? And your handy dandy guide from your expert realtor, right? And it had like these little points. Were really cute, talk to a lender, shop, make an offer, blah, blah, blah. And on the back, it said, you know, how to keep your loan on track. And she had a bunch of little things, really cute, right? And she gave that to people at the open house. Now, I'm not a believer in like stealing stuff, but I am a believer in taking things and improving them, okay? So I would say everything I did.
With a clear conscience.
Yeah. So I did it on nice, pretty, professional paper, right? How to buy a home, your home buying roadmap, right? All the information I wrote and put together, right? And then on the back is tips to get the home you want. Everything is completely different. Everything was totally separate.
I'm gonna make that so much better.
But just take these, because why do I want something simple and easy that somebody can take? Because if it's nice like this, they'll keep it, right? Like whenever I'm delivering like, if I'm doing a magnet or something that I'm going to send out once a year to my clients, it's something they're going to use, right? Like maybe it's like measuring formulas. Because do you ever look at your phone, you're like, how many ounces are in a pint? Whatever. Something they would actually use. I just closed a commercial building yesterday because he's like, hey, I have your face on my refrigerator and my dad needs to sell his building, so hey, can you help him out, right? And so again, that was just from, so all I'm just saying is find the things that are true to you. A really good book is called Story Branding, and it takes you through this process of just like you writing your story and delivering that. I brought a copy, I think the guy's name is, I printed out the big one, but it kind of just goes through and it's just like you writing your story and delivering something and just saying like, how can I differentiate my business? What can I improve on? How do I deliver something that's a higher level? Anyway, hope that helps. If you guys have any questions, I'll be here. Okay? Thanks.
Are there any questions? You guys have any questions?
Any questions?
What are we supposed to say? What do you say? Thank you, Jess.
Yeah. One of the things that we stopped this year that I was like, man, I'm so sick of delivering like a basket. Because I was like, it feels so impersonal. So I was like, what do we have to do? This thing just, took me 6 months to put together. Then we put together a moving box for folks when they move. This took a year. But in the moving box, I was like, okay, it has moving tape with our logo. It has like a checklist of what to move. We bought a system and a thing that'll change their mail, change their utilities, change this. Again, just like, what are the things I can do different? That they're like, whoa, like, what the heck is this? And then on top of that, I'm like, this is cool, but it's kind of lame. And I'm like, what happens when I move? I don't have time, and people come over, and what do they want to do? Sometimes you want to eat, right? So then it was a personal letter from me saying, hey, moving doesn't have to be a total pain. I know you're going to get hungry. Here's dinner on us, and give them like a pizza card with it, right? So just like, what are the things you can do to just like level up so that when people are like, these guys like do it totally different, right? Like what can you do in your business to separate yourself? And I think that's what's going to be the most important.
Hey, you mentioned that you would take a buyer to a home or someone like that, and then that they weren't interested in the home, but then you'd also pre-work, then you find out what else might be in the neighborhood. And so you finish up with that buyer, and then you come back to the neighborhood.
Yeah, so if I finished doing a showing at a property, I would pull up the list of properties that maybe that were expired in that neighborhood or other homes, and I'm just gonna knock on their doors and talk to them.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of things, if you can do things, I used to save all of the for rents for a year. Like all the newspapers for a year, because in a year, the lease is up, right? So 30 or 45 days before, I'd call every landlord, and they'd be like, and I knew my name, and I'd be like, hey, I know, I'm just following up with you, it looks like your property, last year we talked, it looks like that lease is coming up, just curious, have you folks considered selling it, or you may be looking for a new investment property to buy this year? Either way, they're like, no, I don't wanna do anything, great. And then you'll have a conversation, hey, they'll ask, what's the market doing? Because you're the only one that was calling them, right? But I used to save those. The sad thing is I just threw out like this many newspapers that I had in like a thing that I was like, oh my gosh, what are these doing here? And they were like 5 or 6, I think they were like 6 years worth of like just every newspaper ad. That's the only reason I got Sunday paper, right? Now you don't have to do that at like KSL and different things. But that was one way that I did it. But again, that was just that one small little margin. And most of my business came from other things, but I wanted a different way to prospect. So sometimes you just have to think around like, if everybody's calling this one thing, how do I do it different? Like if everybody's calling a brand new expired, could you follow up with them in 90 to 120 days and then reach out to them when it's like kind of this cold lead, right?
What have been some of your epiphanies that have connected your end game to your daily activities to keep you going, to give you drive?
So my end game was always to have a true business, right? Like I wanted something that if for some reason I left, I had something that generated revenue, right? So it was a little bit different. So I focused on new business development daily, and I had to focus on people, systems, and marketing. And so I knew that people is the only way that you're going to move forward with leverage, otherwise you have to do everything. Systems are important so you have a predictable, this is the thing about all this stuff. My goal is that I need to be the brand, but everybody on my team is the relationship, right? So what's important to me is that when you're solo, the hardest part is you're 100% responsible for the client relationship. Whereas now the team is responsible for the relationship. So having a systematic process where all of these things go out, where you're doing a 33 touch system with your SOI, what we do is again, the newsletter 4 times a year. I send out 2 educational videos. We do 3 events every single year. And again, like these things cost money, but that was our #1 lead source, right? And so you gotta understand, like, I think when I ran my numbers, we made like $500,000 off of past clients, and I probably spent $40,000 in everything, which is a lot of money, right? But look at the rate of return, like that's more than a 10x return because you just get in touch with them. And this is the thing, if I had the ability to call them every month, I would, but the database is just too big. And I frankly, this is bad, I'm not willing to do that at this point, right?
Just curious, how many hours, do you have a specific amount of hours you work a week?
So
And do you take any days off?
I'm the wrong person to ask because when I was building the business, like it was, I said it was 7 days a week. It was morning, the moment I woke with my eyes shut. But that's why I made a transition in the business too. Okay. The issue we run into is if this was our business right here is a big circle. The biggest challenge we run into is we think that for us to have a successful business in prospecting, we probably need to do this amount of prospecting, right? The reality is it should be about this, your amount of time prospecting. And if you have no business, it's this, right? So I talk about you have to have a massive pipeline of people ready to go. people ready to go now, people that are gonna come later, then people that are gonna come in from your following up with people.
What's one of the things you thought was gonna take off, that was gonna be a big generator for you that ended up not working out?
Oh man, there's so many dumb little things. I mean, that's why I say is you have to focus on people and you have to ask them, how long have you tried it? What is your income from it? How much did you spend and how much did you net
Do you normally do like a 90-day, I'm gonna do this for 90 days?
a year? I don't think anything will work in 90 days. If you think about online leads, minimum, they incubate 12 months. You need 18 months on those.
What type of events did you do for clients?
So, I mean, I did like this Cinco de Mayo. It was a total freaking bust, right? I don't know why, but it sucked so bad. But then, like, the movie event, we had like 700 people. Like, it was overbooked to 100 people because people like movies. And so those are one of those things that like every one of mine's like kid movies, but I feel like that's kind of me because I got little kids and like that's what I want to go to, right? I don't want to go see some like gory whatever. So, you know, that's not true to me.
Yeah,
We had a barbecue that sucked, you know. The pie event was good for us just because people could come by, but I found if I just have it here, it wasn't good. But when I rent out Wheeler Farm and I have it catered and like it's an event, like they come. It's like triple the cost, but it makes a difference.
How do you tie into that? How do you track your ROI? Like, how are you tracking? I did this event and I got this many deals from it because I did this.
On events, it'll never do. This is why I do events. It's not for return on investment. It's to stay in front of clients, face to face. That's why I do it. I will say this, I wish I would have gone to lunch with people more. I used to think like I had to work through my lunch and like, that's a waste of time. I would have changed that. Like take clients to lunch, spend time with them, narrow it down to your top 50 people and like really love on those people. I think that's really important. But with your hours, just know like the hours in the beginning, it's just you spend a season and it creates a whole different level of change over time, you know?
But it just seems like you do so many things and they're so organized and stuff, but it's still.
But you've
takes
got to
time.
that's the thing is I would be doing everything. You've got to understand now I have a full-time operations person that's managing all the systems. I have a full-time listing coordinator that's taking care of all the listings. We have the buyer's agents that are assisting like with all the buyers. And then I have a full-time marketing person now, which is way too much. Like, but that's me trying to like thinking like 5 years ahead, like what's next? You know, like what do I need to be putting together now for in 5 years? You know, like that's just me investing in something that I don't know the rate of return, but I feel like that's something me in a business I need to have.
So has your end game changed? Or is your end game still to have a sellable business?
It's not, this is the thing, I feel like a sellable business is a myth. I really do. The 7th level, the MREA is a myth because he's still the CEO of that company right now, right? But I do believe you can step to the side and it can produce revenue. But my goal has changed that I do want to spend more time doing the things I like, which is more investing and doing different things and projects.
What, I guess, what's the biggest thing holding you back from going to the next level?
Yourself, I think, is always that, right? Because you're afraid to hire or you're afraid to implement. But yeah, even for me, like, I mean, I bought like an 8-plex, and for me, that was like, oh, I was all freaked out about it. Now, after like me like exposing myself to this whole nother level, like I'm like, dude, I should have just bought a freaking 80 unit, you know?
Yeah.
But it's because I needed to change my environment and the people. I think the people you talk to is really, really important because your mindset just changes, you know? But I will say what holds you back is you're typically your own ceiling. You have to introduce new things into your life. I'm gonna come to you.
Okay.
Can I take a look at your
Yeah, go ahead.
You just made a very interesting transition. We talked about skill set for most of it. Because your mindset makes a difference.
Mindset is everything. That's why I said everybody get audible because that is the #1 demon for sure. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Justin, thank you.
Thank you.